Hello there. Welcome to the Saroy channel. We've got a lovely story tonight about three lumberjacks who had an encounter with a Sasquatch who literally saved their lives because, as you know, lumberjacks have a very big responsibility in the woods and their jobs are very, very dangerous. So let's get started. I really think you're going to enjoy this story and it really is food for thought. He says here, "Hello, Sarah. My name is Ethan, and I'm a fourth-generation lumberjack from the Pacific Northwest. My great-great-grandfather was a spirited pioneer in this industry, using only an axe to fell 5-ton white pine trees. In those days, there was tons of forest that needed to be felled to make way for crop growing, to create towns, and to later build cities. It was a time when wages for a lumberjack were sky-high, because there was such a high fatality rate, with hundreds of lumberjacks dying every single year. It was a very high-risk job. So yes, you and your listeners possibly think I'm completely crazy doing a job like this, being a lumberjack, I mean. But you know what? I love my work. I love the great outdoors. I love the smell of the forest floor. And I love being out in nature. Yes, there are things about the job that make it perilous, and it is noble work. And there are possibly about 45 fatalities every year, even today. You see, there are all kinds of problems when it comes to felling a tree. Sometimes trees may just snap, just like that, when you didn't expect it. Or they might fall where you weren't anticipating. So we can get it wrong a lot of the time, even with our state of accuracy. Believe me, Sarah, I have personally had some near misses, and one of those near misses could have ended up very differently if it hadn't been for a Sasquatch. More about that in a moment. These days we have some really brilliant equipment that makes life a lot easier for loggers like me. Not that it is ever easy, mind you. The machine that we have is known as a fellow buncher, and it's a $500,000 piece of machinery that cuts down a tree in seconds. It really is brilliant. Sometimes if we're working in very steep, high forest terrain, that's when we have to really bring in the big guns. And that is, of course, when helicopters are used. And if the tree does not get lifted above the forest canopies, serious dangers can arise and human lives can be threatened. But I will not go into that right now. Among the lumberjacks, there have been sightings of Sasquatch over the years, but most of us have just kept our mouths shut, or some of us have been asked to, put it that way. On the day that I had my Sasquatch encounter, I was doing a job known as thinning of the forest. It's like being a tree surgeon in the woods. What we try to do is create more space between the trees to promote tree growth, to revitalize the forest and help increase the wildlife. We are very particular about selecting the superior trees to promote their growth and create enough sunlight for them to thrive, while we make sure we move the small trees growing under them so that they can promote this growth, and also we want to prevent fire hazards from occurring in the forest. So you see, my job is very versatile, and what we are doing is literally regenerating the forests. I remember the day of my Sasquatch encounter like it was yesterday. We came across a 1,000-year-old cedar tree, and it was rotten. We did not know this, of course, because cedars tend to be decay resistant, which is why they're often used to make log houses, canoes, and even kayaks. Well, we were bringing down this tree that was very old, but did not appear to be in great shape. Of course, we had no idea that inside it was totally rotten. So when the tree fell, even though we were using cutting-edge machinery, things got out of hand because it was rotten, and one of those branches literally fell away from the tree and was about to crush us. In a second, this bipedal, massive creature that I knew instantly was a Sasquatch intervened and held up this monstrous tree branch in his hand. He literally ripped the branch away as if it was nothing, snapped it and threw it across the forest floor where it landed safely. All three of us loggers just gawked in surprise. What else could we do? What would you do? Not only had this creature saved our lives, but his agility and quick intervention were completely staggering. Not even my fellow buncher machine, so to speak, could have been that efficient. The dexterity of this creature was like nothing I have ever seen. We all looked at him in awe and in stupefied silence. I think fear melted away into sheer admiration for what we had witnessed and gratitude for having our lives spared. This creature definitely had an intelligence, and that was clear. His expression was extremely benign and non-threatening. He looked advanced in age because his dark hair had become grey in places, and his skin was tough and leathery looking, and he had wrinkles on his forehead. He had the look of a great ape blended together with human-like features. His body was massive. I would estimate he was over 1,000 pounds and about 10 foot tall, with the most gargantuan feet I have ever seen, and huge toes that splayed more outwardly than ours do. He looked at us, gave us a nod, and simply disappeared into the woods in seconds. We all looked at each other, and no one said a word for about 5 minutes, because we were mesmerized by what we had seen. And then Peter looked at me and said, "Did you see what I thought we saw?" "It was a Sasquatch," I said. "That's what it was. It couldn't have been anything else," we all agreed. "Tell you what," Pete said, eyeing me with a mischievous twinkle in his brown eyes, "I'm not going to be telling my wife about this. She'll think I've gone bananas." "Did you see what he did? He saved our lives. We could have all been dead," I said. Soberly, we reflected on this cold, hard truth. "I think the creature must have known that the tree was rotten," Peter remarked. "Yes," I said, "they do understand their habitat, because they live and thrive in the woods. They must know all about trees. I think they know what's going on, even when they think we can't see them. They know everything that's going on in these woods." "But why would they help us?" Pete asked. "Why would they help people who are tearing up their habitat? If I was a Sasquatch, I would not want to help a lumberjack." "We were not tearing down the forest," I corrected him. "We were revitalizing the forest, encouraging tree growth, and helping the wildlife. Maybe he knew that, which was why he helped us." We all agreed that this must have been the reason we were helped, which really made us realize that this mystical animal that stays well away from humans as much as possible does have an incredible understanding of its habitat and an extraordinary intelligence that you do not see in other animals. Anyway, the next day when we returned to our jobs, we were so grateful to be alive and continued to talk about our amazing experience with the giant of the woods. Suddenly noticed a whole pile of berries in the place where the rotten tree had been located. I was finally convinced that the creature was indeed thanking us. I have heard of Sasquatch gifting people, and these berries were in that specific location. What else could it have been? Another extraordinary thing that happened that day is that we found 2 enormous western cedars that had been snapped in such a way to show us that they were also very unhealthy and in really bad shape and needed to be cut down, and they could be hazardous. This means that we were able to be very careful in felling these particular trees, because they did fall apart easily and their limbs pretty much fell everywhere. On that day we did hear whoops and tree knocks in the forest. So there you are, Sarah. A grateful, appreciative Bigfoot saved our lives that day. I've not had any other sightings since, but here's still hoping. What an amazing story. Until next time, good night.